What happens when one of Hollywood's biggest action stars strolls into a late-night show expecting light-hearted banter, only to walk right into a trap months in the making? Tonight, you'll witness one of the most explosive confrontations ever to unfold on live television. A night where Vin Diesel peels back the curtain on Jimmy Kimmel's hidden agenda and delivers a cold, thunderous laugh that shakes the entire studio. Buckle up, because with every passing second, this story only gets more ruthless. Make sure you subscribe, and let us know your thoughts below, because you're about to witness a television meltdown for the ages. Backstage at Jimmy Kimmel Live, tension lingered like thick smoke. The green room, usually buzzing with assistants and last-minute notes, was dead silent. Vin Diesel lounged in a sleek, leather chair, scrolling through his phone, calm, collected, blissfully unaware of the ambush that awaited him beyond those stage curtains. Pacing nearby, his publicist Sarah kept shooting nervous glances toward the hallway. Her movements were restless, her words carefully restrained. "Vin, are you absolutely sure you want to go through with this tonight?" Vin raised an eyebrow, his signature low-toned voice cutting through the stillness. "Why wouldn't I, Sarah? Jimmy and we've done this dance before. It's just TV. Fun and games." Sarah didn't mirror the confidence. Her lips pressed into a thin line, and her voice dipped low. "That's exactly what's bothering me." Before Vin could probe further, a production assistant popped her head in, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Diesel, we're set. 5 minutes." Vin stood tall, adjusting his black fitted shirt, fingers brushing over his silver chain. He flashed that confident grin, the kind that made him the king of blockbusters. Showtime. But as he stepped toward the stage entrance, Sarah's hand gripped his forearm. Her nails dug in, her expression severe. "Vin, listen to me. Something's off. Jimmy's been digging around, asking odd questions. Not about the movie. About your personal life. About your family." Vin's footsteps halted. His stare, sharp and focused, locked on Sarah. "What questions?" "About those stories, Vin. The ones we've been trying to keep quiet." Another knock at the door, another interruption. "Mr. Diesel, stage is ready." Vin exhaled slowly, nodding once. His publicist watched, helpless, as he disappeared down the corridor toward the blinding stage lights. The opening theme roared through the speakers. Applause thundered from the live audience. Vin Diesel emerged, larger than life, basking in the crowd's electrifying energy. Jimmy Kimmel stood waiting, his famous smile plastered on. But beneath that grin, there was something colder. "Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for the one and only Vin Diesel." Vin greeted the crowd, waving, his presence radiating charisma. He approached Jimmy's desk, extended his hand. But the handshake lingered too long, grip firm, eyes locking in silent combat. "Vin Diesel," Jimmy said, voice booming through the studio. "You're looking incredible, man. Welcome back." "Appreciate it, Jimmy. Always good to be here." The applause mellowed, and the show settled into its usual rhythm, or so it seemed. Jimmy leaned back in his chair, fingers laced together, grin unwavering. "So Vin, let's jump right into it. Fast and Furious. What number are we on now?" 15. Vin chuckled, the deep, gravelly sound filling the room. "Not quite. It's Foztex, part 2 now. But hey, who's counting anymore?" Laughter rippled through the crowd. Jimmy kept up the grin, but something about it tightened, turning more rigid. "Well, speaking of family, it's impressive, right? You've built an entire franchise on the idea of family. Audiences love it." Vin smiled knowingly. "It's the heartbeat of what we do, Jimmy. When your team feels like family, you can pull off the impossible." Jimmy's head tilted, eyes narrowing. His next words cut sharper. "Family. You talk about it a lot obsessively, some would say." A flicker of irritation crossed Vin's features, quickly buried under a professional smile. "Not obsessively, authentically." "Authentically?" Jimmy echoed, dragging out the word, almost savoring it. "Interesting choice, because some would question your authenticity when it comes to family values." The audience fell uncomfortably quiet. The familiar rhythm of laughs and light jabs suddenly stalled. Even the camera crew seemed frozen, sensing the shift. Vin's posture stiffened, his eyes narrowing just a fraction. His voice dropped to a warning tone. "Jimmy, where exactly are you going with this?" The air in the studio thickened. The friendly late-night chat had just transformed into something far more dangerous. Jimmy leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk, smile never quite reaching his eyes. "I'm just wondering, Vin, about the gap between the family man everyone sees on screen and the stories floating around off-screen." Vin didn't flinch. His tone sharpened. "Stories? Come on, Vin," Jimmy said, his voice carrying a sharp edge. Let's not pretend. Stories about how you treat people on set, how you deal with crew members, tantrums, threats, the whole package. The crowd squirmed. The energy shifted into something darker, uncomfortable. Vin's posture remained still, but his voice dropped to a menacing low. Jimmy, you're steering this in a direction you're not prepared for. Jimmy pressed, voice louder now. Why shouldn't I steer it? It's my show, Vin. These people, they deserve the truth. The truth, Vin repeated, his tone mocking, head tilting just slightly. Your audience came for entertainment, not to watch you betray someone who's called you a friend. Jimmy's laughter rang out, hollow forced. A friend, Vin? Friends don't threaten careers over jokes. Want me to remind you? Before Vin could answer, Jimmy reached under the desk and slammed a manila folder onto the surface, the slap of paper echoing through the dead-silent studio. Let's take a stroll down memory lane, Jimmy said, flipping open the folder. Crew complaints. 3 years' worth. Vanished from the record books, mysteriously. Vin's eyes tracked from the folder to Jimmy, expression carved from granite. Open it, he said. Jimmy wasted no time. Complaint from the set of F9. Allegedly threw a chair at a camera guy for accidentally catching your bald spot. A few awkward giggles burst from the crowd, quickly fading when Vin smiled. A slow, chilling smile. A chair? Jimmy, look at me. If I threw a chair, you wouldn't be holding a complaint. You'd be attending a funeral. Chuckles sputtered, nervous energy thick in the room. Jimmy didn't let up. And locking a writer in a trailer for 6 hours because you didn't like the dialogue. That. Vin leaned back, nonchalant. True. The confession made Jimmy jolt, surprise cracking through his confidence. You admit that? I admit. I protect my characters. When someone tries to poison the story, we work it out. Intensely. Jimmy fumbled through more papers, licking his lips. You blocked other actors, blacklisted them. Like Tyrese Gibson, you had him thrown out of projects. That was the line. Vin's muscles tightened, jaw set like concrete. Jimmy, you're about to cross into territory where even your producers can't save you. Jimmy's bravado flared. This is my show. My platform. I do the digging. Vin stood. 6 feet of sheer muscle rose over Jimmy, shadow swallowing the desk whole. You didn't dig anything, Jimmy. You got fed. By liars. Jimmy's hand trembled over the papers. Sources credible ones. Who? Vin's voice sliced the air. Who's feeding you garbage? Who handed you that folder? Jimmy's composure cracked. I can't. I protect my sources. Vin's laugh, low, threatening, rumbled across the stage. Or you protect your ignorance. Jimmy's fake confidence faltered. I know when I'm being threatened. Vin's stare turned ice cold. You'd know if you were being threatened. This is a lesson. Jimmy's knuckles whitened around the papers. I did the research. No, Vin interrupted. You played puppet for someone who couldn't get traction anywhere else. Someone who approached other shows first, and found their sucker right here. Jimmy's throat bobbed in a nervous swallow, color draining from his cheeks. You think you're exposing me? Vin said, grabbing the folder and flicking through it like cheap gossip magazines. These fake complaints. Where did they come from? Jimmy's voice faltered. Confidential. Vin leaned closer, every word dripping with authority. Let me guess, a former industry insider approached your producers 6 weeks ago, promised ratings gold. Jimmy's mouth parted, words trapped in his throat. The realization dawning in his eyes was undeniable. You were played, Jimmy, Vin said calmly, tossing the folder down, scattering papers like broken promises. And you fell for it. The entire studio held its collective breath, the air thick with the weight of humiliation, and the unmistakable scent of impending collapse. Vin didn't back down. He stepped closer, his presence towering. Let's make this crystal clear, Jimmy. The only reason you got this dossier is because someone was desperate enough to burn you for their revenge. Jimmy swallowed, his voice cracking. You don't know that. Oh, I do, Vin fired back, his tone steel sharp. Because that same person tried peddling this trash to other networks. They said no. They checked facts. You? You saw a headline. Jimmy blinked rapidly, throat tightening. And you're gonna sit there and pretend you've done journalism. Vin continued, pacing slowly, the camera following his every step. No, Jimmy. You've done what you swore you'd never do. You became the hitman, thinking you'd take out a headline and come out clean. Jimmy fumbled for his papers, flipping through them, visibly searching for stability. Even if, some of this, it could be valid. Vin slammed his hand on the desk, the wood vibrating under the force. No, Jimmy. You don't get to maybe your way out of this. You weaponized rumors. You gambled your integrity to try and smear a man who's done nothing but bleed for this industry. Jimmy's voice dropped to a whisper. I didn't know. You didn't care, Vin cut in sharply, seizing the moment. You wanted clicks, ratings, viral clips. Truth was never your priority. The main studio screen behind them suddenly lit up. Emails, payment records, time-stamped conversations. Jimmy's head whipped around, stunned. Recognize those? Vin asked coldly. Your producers might, because my team fed them to your studio the second we knew where this ambush was heading. Jimmy's lips parted in shock, his words falling flat. A new voice broke in, deep, professional, authoritative. Good evening, Jimmy. Jimmy froze. Who? This, Vin announced, is Marcus Chen, lead counsel at Universal Studios. Jimmy paled. The audience leaned in. Mr. Kimmel. Marcus's voice continued from Vin's phone on speaker. We've been monitoring these false claims for months. And you just helped us unearth the source. Jimmy's voice trembled. I didn't mean. You mean to tell me you accepted unverified documents, live, about the lead of one of the largest film franchises in the world, without fact-checking? Marcus cut him off coldly. Jimmy's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Vin leaned in, calm but brutal. The person who gave you this is Rebecca Martinez. Fired from Paramount. Caught skimming millions from budgets. And you became her final revenge plan. Jimmy stumbled back into his chair, face ashen. And here's the kicker, Marcus continued. This was a legal trap, Jimmy. Everything from the planted folder to the staged ambush. And you walked into it with a smile. Vin circled back to the desk, voice lowering. You wanted a big story. You just made yourself the headline. Jimmy's head sank into his hands, the walls of confidence caving in on live television. Jimmy sat slumped in his chair, every eye in the studio locked on him, every camera capturing his downfall in real time. Vin stood tall, calm, not a bead of sweat on his brow. The room was heavy with silence, the type that only breaks when something irreversible happens. Let's be real clear, Jimmy, Vin said, his tone quiet but devastating. You weren't just reckless. You became part of a smear campaign orchestrated by someone who's been robbing this industry blind. Jimmy's lips quivered. It was just an interview. Vin's laugh came sharp, cutting through the silence. No, it was a hit job. But here's where the script flips. You don't get to bury people alive on television and walk away like it never happened. Jimmy stared at the monitor showing Rebecca Martinez's email chains, the payments, the lies. His chest heaved as reality crashed in. You will make this right. Marcus's voice crackled through the phone. A full retraction. On this stage. Right now. Vin nodded. And you're going to start by admitting to your audience that everything you tried to throw at me tonight was fiction, spun by a thief. Jimmy's fingers trembled as they gripped the microphone. He sucked in a breath, forcing his spine straight. I made a mistake. The words felt foreign in his mouth, but Vin gave him no room to backtrack. Louder, Vin said. Jimmy's voice rose. I made a mistake. I took unverified information from a source with a personal vendetta, and I tried to destroy a good man's name for ratings. I let ambition blind me to the truth. The audience stayed silent, not in sympathy, but in shock. Not done, Vin said. You're going to donate tonight's earnings to the Behind-the-Scenes Foundation, supporting crew members you were willing to throw under the bus. Jimmy nodded weakly. Fine. I will. And you'll apologize to every person you just dragged into this circus, Vin pressed. Tyrese Gibson. The Fast Crew. The writers you accused me of mistreating. Jimmy's shoulders sagged. I apologize to all of them. Vin leaned in close, voice smooth but firm. Good. Because this footage. He pointed at the cameras. It's not getting edited. It's airing exactly as it happened. You tried to bait me, and the world deserves to see who took the bait instead. Jimmy looked completely gutted, his trademark smile nowhere in sight, his aura of control shattered. Vin turned to the audience, that unmistakable grin finally returning to his face. And to all of you watching, let this be a lesson. Before you rush to judgment, remember, in this business, lies spread fast, but the truth hits harder. He stood tall, turning back to Jimmy for a final blow. You wanted a viral moment, Jimmy. Congratulations. You got one. Just not the one you expected. With that, Vin walked off the stage, head high, leaving Jimmy Kimmel deflated under the unforgiving glare of the studio lights. The applause started slowly, then erupted, loud, thunderous, not for the host, but for the guest who walked in as a target and left as a victor. Backstage, Vin met Sarah, his publicist, who beamed with pride. That was historic. Vin simply shrugged, a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. It's all about family, and protecting your own. As Vin left the studio, phone buzzing with calls from Hollywood's biggest players, Jimmy sat motionless in his chair, the wreckage of his ambush laying bare around him. And that night, millions of viewers witnessed something they rarely see in show business. An unshakable man standing tall, dismantling a trap, and reminding everyone why integrity will always outshine scandal. The next morning, headlines weren't about scandal, they were about Vin Diesel schooling late-night television on truth. So, what's your take? Did Vin go too far? Or did Jimmy get exactly what he deserved? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Because in Hollywood, the real stories are wilder than fiction. End of script, Part 4, 4,997 characters. Let me know if you'd like the CTA, video description, thumbnail ideas, and hashtags next. If you enjoyed watching Vin Diesel completely turn the tables on Jimmy Kimmel, hit that like button and subscribe for more jaw-dropping Hollywood confrontations. What do you think? Was Vin right to expose Jimmy live on air, or did it go too far? Comment below, and let's talk about it.